The first prediction for today's NBA games is for the game between the Clippers and the Magic. When I dive into this matchup, I see two teams heading in completely different emotional directions, but not necessarily in opposite betting directions. Orlando comes in feeling good about themselves, winning 7 of their last 10, defending their home floor, and getting a huge lift from guys who weren't even central pieces a month ago. Meanwhile, the Clippers look like a team that's constantly one twisted ankle away from disaster, but somehow they still manage to hang around in almost every game. And that's where things get interesting for me. The Magic, even without Paolo Banchero, have rediscovered that old-school defensive toughness that made them such a problem last season. They're locking down the perimeter again, shrinking driving lanes, and forcing teams into low-efficiency possessions. And while their offense isn't exactly explosive, they compensate by attacking the paint, living at the free throw line, and turning opponents' mistakes into transition buckets. Desmond Bane, Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr., and the second unit led by Anthony Black have stepped up big time. I can't take anything away from the balance they've shown over the past couple of weeks. But even with all that, I'm not blindly buying the Magic roll at home narrative. Not tonight. The Clippers' record makes them look worse than they are. I watch every game, and as rough as things have been, they continue to scrap. They push teams into low possession battles, grind defensively, slow the pace, and force opponents to beat them possession by possession. And when the game gets ugly, that's where James Harden has quietly kept them alive. I know people are quick to write off a 36-year-old Harden, but he's still reading defenses like a chess master, controlling tempo, getting to his spots, and manufacturing offense for a team that desperately needs it. And yes, the injuries are brutal. No Kawhi Leonard, no Bradley Beal, no Derrick Jones Jr. The star power is basically gone. But sometimes that forces a team to simplify the game and play with more urgency. Ivica Zubac shows up with force every night. John Collins has settled into his role. Kobe Sanders gives them energy. And even with everyone hurt, the Clippers keep finding themselves in one-possession games late. That tells me something. Their style travels. Both teams lean heavily on defense right now. Both teams grind. Both can get stuck in long scoring droughts. And when you give me a defensive slog, I immediately start looking at the underdog, because games like this rarely break open. Orlando might win this game outright. I'm not denying that. They're healthier, deeper, and more consistent. But the spread is a different conversation. When games slow down, when possessions shrink, and when both teams force long half-court battles, that number gets a lot harder to cover. And that's exactly where I'm planting my flag tonight. After breaking down all the angles, all the matchups, and the way both teams have played recently, I'm riding with the Clippers to cover the 6.5-point spread. Their defense travels. Their pace keeps games close. And Harden still controls the floor well enough to keep them competitive for 48 minutes. That's my play. Today's second prediction is for the game between the Sacramento Kings and the Memphis Grizzlies. When I look at this matchup between the Sacramento Kings and the Memphis Grizzlies in Memphis, I see two teams that have been stuck in the mud for weeks. This is not a glamour game. This is a grind between two battered rosters where the edge comes from situational angles, fatigue, and mentality more than pure talent. And that is exactly the kind of spot I like to attack. Let me start with Sacramento. The Kings are in a brutal stretch. They have dropped the vast majority of their games to open the season and come into Memphis on a long losing skid with their confidence clearly shaken. The numbers tell the story. They are giving up well over 120 points per night while scoring in the low 100 teens, which means they are constantly trying to climb uphill. Opponents are shooting efficiently against them, and the Kings are not helping themselves on the glass, ranking near the bottom of the league in total rebounds and offensive rebounds. What worries me even more is the way they are closing games. Sacramento has one of the worst fourth-quarter win percentages in the league and has already used a double-digit number of different starting lineups. That screams instability. When a team cannot settle its rotation and consistently fades late, it is very hard for me to trust them on the road, especially when legs are heavy. And here, the schedule really works against them. The Kings are on the second night of a back-to-back, coming off another tough road game. Historically, they have struggled badly in this exact slot. They have dropped a long string of road games on Thursdays and have failed to cash tickets away from home in this situation. You add in injuries to key frontcourt pieces like Domantas Sabonis and Keegan Murray being out or banged up, and you get a team that is already fragile now being asked to dig deep with tired legs and a short rotation. That is not a recipe I want to back. Now let's flip to Memphis. I am not going to pretend the Grizzlies are rolling. They are not. They have lost 9 of their last 10 and have their own laundry list of injuries. Ja Morant is out. Ty Jerome is out. Brandon Clark is out. Scottie Pippen Jr. is out. And they have been forced to lean on guys like Cedric Coward, Jaren Jackson Jr., Santi Aldama, and Jock Landale to carry the load. The shooting numbers are ugly. Low 40s from the field and barely above 30 from long distance. That is why the market has completely turned its back on this team. But this is exactly where my experience kicks in. When a team keeps missing against the spread and keeps falling short of expectations, the lines start to tilt too far the other way. The market stops pricing who they are and starts pricing how bad it feels to bet on them. That is when value shows up. Memphis is at home, in a rest advantage spot, facing a Kings team on the back end of a back-to-back that has been bleeding late in games and getting bullied on the boards. Despite their slump, the Grizzlies still bring some serious edges. They rebound better than the Kings. They limit opponent free throws at a high level, and they have actually been reliable in this favorite role against tired opponents, especially when the other team is on the second leg of a back-to-back. When Memphis gets a push from the home crowd and strings together one big quarter, we have seen they can explode for 40 points in a frame and flip a game in a hurry. The issue has been sustaining it, but against a worn-down Kings squad that has been collapsing in fourth quarters, I like Memphis' chances of closing the door for once. From a trend standpoint, the Kings have been a disaster as road underdogs in the West and have been ice cold on Thursdays away from home. On the other side, favorites in Grizzlies games have been getting the money, and Memphis has repeatedly rewarded backers at FedEx Forum when laying a short number against opponents coming in tired. When I line all of that up, the rest advantage, the Kings' fatigue, the rebounding gap, the mental spot, and the market overreaction to Memphis' recent skid, I know where I want to be. I am not expecting a masterpiece. This might be a scrappy, ugly game with stretches of bricks and long scoring droughts. But sometimes an ugly matchup can still be a beautiful betting spot. In this case, I believe the Grizzlies have enough energy, size, and urgency at home to control the glass, get to their spots offensively, and take advantage of a Kings team that keeps running out of gas and answers. So for this one, I am siding with the home team in a classic buy low spot. My prediction is that the Memphis Grizzlies to win the game and cover the 2-point line against the Kings. The third prediction for today is for the game between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Milwaukee Bucks. When I look at this matchup between Philadelphia and Milwaukee, I can't help but feel like this is one of those nights where the game script is already whispering the answer before the ball even goes up. I've been watching the league long enough to know when a team is walking into the gym with momentum behind their guard play and when the other squad is just trying to patch holes for 48 minutes. And right now, that's exactly what I'm seeing with these two. Philly has been dealing with injuries forever, and at this point, I think they've almost become numb to it. Embiid is out. Paul George has barely touched the court. Oubre is sidelined. But the one constant all season has been Tyrese Maxey putting this team on his back and sprinting downhill like he's got a jetpack strapped to him. When I watch him, I don't just see a scorer. I see a guy who genuinely believes he can tilt the game every possession. He's playing at an all-NBA rhythm right now, and when a guard is in that kind of groove, you ride it. And it's not like he's alone out there. Quentin Grimes has been a flamethrower from deep. VJ Edgecombe looks like the kid who doesn't know he's supposed to be nervous yet, and Andre Drummond is doing exactly what they need, anchoring the paint, cleaning the glass, and giving them second chances. This team moves with purpose even when half the roster is in street clothes. That tells me a lot about their mentality. Milwaukee? Man, this is a tough stretch for them, and I'm saying that as someone who's seen this franchise look like a well-oiled machine for years. Without Giannis, everything slows down. Everything becomes harder. Those wide-open threes that come from collapsing the defense, gone. Those easy buckets in transition, gone. Instead, they're leaning on Rollins, Turner, Kuzma, and Anthony to create something out of nothing. And while those guys battle, the ceiling is clearly lower. You could see it in their loss to Cleveland. Once Giannis checked out, the Bucks looked like a team trying to rewrite their identity on the fly. and that rarely works mid-season. They've lost 3 of their last 4 for a reason. The edges are fraying, and they simply don't have the firepower without their superstar. Their defense has holes, their rebounding has dipped, and their fourth quarter scoring has been inconsistent. What really tips the scale for me? The Sixers have quietly become one of the best closing time teams in the league. They defend the fourth quarter like their paycheck depends on it, and Maxi's ability to control tempo down the stretch is becoming elite. Philly may be on the second night of a back-to-back, but they've actually thrived in this spot all year. Their pace suits it, their structure suits it, and Maxi's stamina suits it. Meanwhile, the Bucks are walking into this one without their engine, without their emotional leader, and without the guy who makes the game easier for everyone else. And when I've been watching NBA basketball for this long, I've learned one simple truth. When the superstar is out, you're asking role players to punch above their weight for 48 minutes. That's not how you beat a guard-driven team playing with confidence. So when I put all the metrics, rhythm, injuries, pace, and matchup dynamics together, I don't overthink it. To me, this feels like a night where the tougher, sharper, better organized team grabs the wheel and doesn't let go. My prediction, I'm going to play the Philadelphia 76ers to win and cover the 2-point spread against Milwaukee. Today's last prediction is for the game between the Atlanta Hawks and the San Antonio Spurs. When I look at this matchup, I see 2 teams arriving at the same arena with completely different rhythms, and that's exactly what gives this game its edge. The Spurs have been a tough out at home all year, but the Hawks have quietly turned into one of the most dangerous road squads in the league. And as someone who has been watching NBA basketball for decades, I can tell you, there's nothing trickier than a confident road team that just took a punch and wants to swing back immediately. Atlanta is coming off that loss to Detroit, but I'm not overreacting to it. That wasn't a bad performance. It was simply running into a red-hot opponent at the wrong time. What matters to me is the stretch before that game. I saw a Hawks team hitting all the right notes, ball movement humming, role players stepping up, and the whole roster playing connected, even without their star guard. They went into Phoenix and handled business. They went to Los Angeles and took care of the Lakers and Clippers. They even smashed Sacramento by more than 30. That's not luck. That's a team that's buying into what they're running. What I really like is how Atlanta has adapted to playing without Trae Young. Instead of freezing up, they loosened up. The ball moves. The pace is controlled. Jalen Johnson has stepped into an all-star level groove, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been a spark plug who doesn't let the energy dip. And when a team leans on its depth the way Atlanta has lately, it travels well. That's exactly what we're seeing. This group has turned into a road problem for almost everybody. Now, I respect what the Spurs are doing too. De'Aaron Fox has been fantastic, and Harrison Barnes looks as sharp as he's looked in years. They're winning games with pace, with poise, and with big fourth-quarter stands. But when Victor Wembanyama is out, the identity shifts. The paint isn't as intimidating. The rotations aren't as tight, and when the tempo rises, this team sometimes struggles to close the door. The Spurs have also been giving up big quarters defensively. Memphis hung 40 on them in one stretch, and that is the kind of opening Atlanta can punish over and over again. The Hawks love to go on quick scoring bursts, and if you let them run 2 or 3 clean offensive possessions in a row, they can flip a game in seconds. Even with San Antonio's home strength, I'm not convinced they can keep Atlanta from finding that rhythm at some point tonight. I've watched this Hawks team long enough to know when they're in a groove, and right now, I see a group that competes hard on the road, shares the ball, and doesn't panic when someone is missing. They've covered again and again away from home because their style just works when the lights get bright and the crowd gets loud. So after breaking all this down, looking at momentum, injuries, roles, and overall flow, I'm planting my flag on the side I trust more in these spots. My prediction, I'm playing the Atlanta Hawks to cover the 2.5-point spread.